The Hidden Architects of Power: How the Elite Shape Nations and Control History, by Eugene Mathena. History is not a series of random events. Nations do not rise and fall by accident. Ideologies do not become dominant simply because they are popular. There is a guiding hand behind every major shift in world history, a cabal of powerful individuals who exert their influence to ensure the world moves in the direction they desire. The average person, caught up in the daily grind, fails to see this manipulation, believing instead that events unfold by mere happenstance. But nothing happens by chance. Behind the curtains of government, finance, and global institutions, there exists a network of wealthy and influential figures: politicians, bankers, corporate magnates, and technocrats who dictate the course of nations. These individuals, bound by their common interest rather than loyalty to any nation, work in unison to shape the policies and ideologies that define an era. Their objectives are long-term, their influence unparalleled, and their control nearly absolute. Take, for example, the post-World War II order. The devastation of the war was not merely an unfortunate consequence of human conflict. It was an opportunity. In the aftermath, world leaders, guided by elite financiers and policymakers, set in motion a global realignment toward liberal progressivism. It is ironic that after defeating Adolf Hitler, a far-left ideologue, the elites then steered the world further into leftist ideology, a contradiction that defies logic. The establishment of the United Nations, the restructuring of economies through the Bretton Woods system, and the rise of centralized globalist institutions were not natural progressions. These were deliberate, calculated moves designed to shape a world order that serves the ruling class while keeping the masses oblivious to their true intentions. Following World War II, a distinct ideological shift occurred. Traditional values, rooted in nationalism, sovereignty, and self-determination, began to be replaced with globalist ideals. This was no accident. It was decided by those in power that the future lay in a world where borders were weakened, cultures homogenized, and economies centralized under the control of international institutions. The European Union, the rise of multinational corporations, and the spread of progressive social policies were not organic, grassroots movements. They were engineered changes, propagated through media, academia, and government policies. Why? Because a populace that is fragmented, divided, and morally disoriented is easier to control. The destruction of traditional values and the promotion of mass consumerism, dependency on the state, and blind trust in so-called experts ensure that the average person remains too distracted to question the power structures that dictate their reality. One of the greatest deceptions of the modern era is the belief that democracy places power in the hands of the people. While elections are held and politicians come and go, the true decision-makers remain behind the scenes. Presidents, prime ministers, and legislators may appear to wield authority, but they are merely actors on a stage, following scripts written by the financial elites, think tanks, and secretive organizations that determine global policy. The World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Bilderberg Group are just a few examples of the entities where real power is brokered away from public scrutiny. How is this control maintained? Through the manipulation of information. The mainstream media, controlled by a handful of powerful corporations, ensures that the public is fed a carefully curated version of reality. Alternative viewpoints are ridiculed or censored, while dissenters are labeled as conspiracy theorists or extremists. The education system, designed not to foster critical thinking but to instill compliance, ensures that new generations grow up accepting the status quo without question. The author of this article, Eugene Mathena, believes that the course of popular music since the 1950s has been deliberately influenced to serve a broader agenda. In the 1950s, elites sought to use music to steer the younger generation toward a new cultural ideology. However, their plan backfired with the British invasion of rock and pop music, which took culture in an unintended direction. In the 1970s, the elites again attempted to shape popular music, along with movies and television, to align with their vision. While they had some success, the 1980s saw another unexpected shift as the people, rather than the establishment, dictated the cultural landscape. By the 1990s, however, the power elite had gained enough control over media channels, most notably through MTV, to successfully steer popular culture as intended. MTV served its purpose, and now? Well, now they don't even play music anymore. Do you understand now? Is it becoming more clear? Remember the catchy slogan, "I want my MTV"? You thought it was just a clever phrase, right? In reality, it was a psyop. The powerful had a plan, and they knew exactly what they were doing. By the mid to late 1990s, the American music scene had changed forever. The elites in control had won. That's how and why they burned that phrase in every teenager's mind, and dad and mom got them their MTV. At the same time, cultural wars have been waged under the guise of racial justice. Yet justice that comes at the expense of another race is not justice at all. Media, music, movies, and literature have become tools for manipulating public opinion, gradually leading society down a predetermined path. I was once blind to this myself, easily swayed by the narratives pushed through television and entertainment. But I have since awakened, and I now encourage those willing to listen to open their eyes. Limit your exposure to the media. When you notice a sudden trend being universally promoted by TV, movies, and news outlets, you can be sure it is no coincidence. It is a carefully orchestrated psyop or the product of a particular political agenda. When factions divide America by teaching history through separate lenses, by class and race rather than as a unified national story, you are witnessing the workings of Marxism. This division is not accidental. It was planned. Look around and wake up. The attack on America, the erosion of freedom, the shaming of patriotism, the destruction of history, and the vilification of our founders is the deliberate work of a powerful cabal steering the world in a direction most people do not even realize. Reader, understand this. The world you live in is not shaped by chance. The major events that alter the course of history are not the result of spontaneous social movements or mere political evolution. They are orchestrated, meticulously planned by those who hold the reins of power. The elites know exactly what they are doing, and they know how to keep you in the dark. Recognizing this reality is the first step toward breaking free from the illusion. Once you see the hidden hand at work, you can no longer unsee it. The question then becomes, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to believe in the comforting lies of the system, or will you start to question everything you have been told? Nothing happens by chance, and those who control the strings will continue to do so unless the people awaken to the truth.